Time is one of the most mysterious aspects of our existence. Every second that passes pulls us from the present into what we call the future, while the past slips away, forever out of reach. But what does it mean to say that time passes? Is the future waiting for us, or does it not exist until we reach it? And what about the past? Does it exist somewhere else? In this video, we'll explore the three main theories of time and why, in the end, only the present might be real. To understand the nature of time, we need to look at three key theories: eternalism, the moving spotlight theory, and presentism. Each offers a different perspective on whether the past and future exist and what makes the present special, if anything. Eternalism is the idea that the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. According to this theory, time is like space. Just as all locations in the world exist equally, so do all moments in time. There is no special center of time, just like there is no center in space. Imagine looking at the map of the United States of America. Each state, whether it's California or New York, exists relative to the others, but none is more real than the others. Similarly, in eternalism, every point in time, whether it's 2020, 2024, or 2100, exists equally. Formally, eternalism is considered a B theory of time. This means there is no objective past, present, or future. They just exist relative to one another. Additionally, eternalism takes an eternalist temporal ontology, where all times exist eternally. Finally, eternalism has a static theory of temporal passage. This means that time does not really pass, as there is no change to what exists. Next is the moving spotlight theory. This theory takes a similar view to eternalism in that the past, present, and future all exist. However, it adds a twist. The present is special. Imagine time as a movie reel. All the frames exist, but only the frame that's being projected onto the screen is the present. The spotlight of time moves over the timeline moment by moment, illuminating what we call the now. In this sense, the present is real in a way that the past and future are not, even though they still exist. Formally, the moving spotlight theory is classified as an A theory of time because it recognizes a single objective instant of time that is absolutely present. It also supports an eternalist temporal ontology in that all times exist regardless of current temporal position. Finally, time passes through events by gaining and losing the property of being present. This means that time moves in a way where the present moment gains the property of being present, and the past loses the property of being present, and the future will gain the property of being present. Finally, we have the theory of presentism. Presentism argues that only the present exists. The past is gone and the future hasn't yet to come into being. Time is unfolding as we live it, moment by moment. Presentism can be compared to a live broadcast. Imagine you're watching a sports game being aired in real time. You can only see what happens right now. The previous plays are no longer visible, and the future plays haven't occurred yet. The past highlights aren't available to view, and no one will know what happens next. The only reality in the action happening on your screen is the exact moment, just as presentism asserts that only the present exists, while present and future are non-existent. Presentism is also an A theory of time, as it distinguishes the present from the past and future. However, unlike the moving spotlight theory, presentism rejects the idea that other times, past or future, exist at all, which makes the theory have a presentist temporal ontology. In presentism, time passes because what exists changes. Now that we've broken down the main theories of time, let's dive into why presentism stands out and why the past and future don't actually exist in the present. To do that, we're going to explore two key arguments: Zeno's paradox and the role of consciousness. Zeno's paradox is a well-known philosophical problem that comes from the pre-Socratic Greek philosopher Zeno. He argues movement is impossible because you can always divide the distance between 2 points in half. For example, to reach a destination, you first have to cover half the distance. Then you have to cover half of that distance, and so on, creating an infinite series of divisions. If you're constantly having the distance, it seems like you'd never actually reach the end, only half the distance. This paradox assumes that both time and space are infinitely divisible, meaning no matter how small the distance or moment in time, it can always be divided further. Calculus solves this paradox by taking the derivative of distance over time, using limits that even though there are infinitely many divisions, they sum up to a finite value. By applying the derivative of distance with respect to time, we see that the infinite series of diminishing distances can still result in reaching the destination within a finite amount of time. But here's the issue. You cannot do this with time itself. Time isn't a dimension where we can move through the same way we move through space. So how does the moving spotlight theory handle the transition from one moment to another? If the spotlight of time is moving, how does it get from point A to point B if time itself is continuous? The short answer is it can't. The moving spotlight theory falls apart here because it cannot explain how time moves without running into Zeno's paradox. The next argument is the argument from consciousness or the confinement doctrine. Consciousness inherently involves experience and perception, which is always situated in the present moment. Though we have memory and imagination, these are just mental reconstructions or projections in the present rather than the direct experiences of the past or future. The confinement doctrine posits that consciousness is bound to the present, which means that any conscious experience is necessarily now. This aligns with presentism. If we ever experience the present, it suggests that only the present is real. Eternalism, on the other hand, posits that the past, present, and future all exist equally. But this creates a dissonance with how we experience time. If all moments exist equally, why is our awareness and experience restricted to just the present? In essence, the argument is that the nature of conscious awareness contradicts the eternalist view, because if we are only aware of the present, then we have no reason to believe that the past and future are just as real as this very moment. Presentism, however, seamlessly fits with the idea that the reality of time is confined to the present moment. Because if conscious beings experience only the present, it stands to reason that, that only the present is real. By respecting the boundaries of conscious experience, presentism emerges as a more intuitively accurate theory of time. This mutual reinforcement between time and consciousness makes presentism not just plausible, but necessary for a coherent understanding of our lived experience. So, why do past and future not exist? Zeno's paradox challenges the very idea of time moving in the way moving spotlight theory suggests, and consciousness shows us that only the present is truly experienced. Presentism offers the most intuitive and consistent explanation. Only the present is real. The past and future, they're merely ideas, not realities.